Tonight on Town Meeting. The Beatles never had this problem. The Rolling Stones didn't either. But Two Live Crew has the problem, and so do some other mainstream bands. The Washington legislature wants kids under 18 prohibited from buying songs with profane or erotic lyrics. Tonight, you'll hear from band members from Two Live Crew and Nirvana, who say keeping minors from buying their songs is censorship, while supporters of the legislation say it's just good sense. Ladies and gentlemen, the host of Town Meeting, Ken Schramm.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Welcome to Town Meeting. And we're glad that you could join us this evening. I'll tell you off the top, we're still waiting on Luther Campbell from Two Live Crew. We're having some satellite problems or attendance problems, I guess you would call them. But if he should ramble on, we'll put him on. So stay with us. I'll tell you what we're talking about here. We're talking about music that will put ripples in your soup, a cranked up bass beat that'll vibrate your windows, and lyrics that are sometimes so suggestive or so descriptive or so profane that for a while now, parental advisory stickers have been placed on cassette tapes and compact discs. And we're not talking Love Dove June Moon here. We're talking street slang, rock and roll, rhythm and blues, rap, and heavy metal. We are talking about a mother who said cautionary labels just aren't enough. What we really need is a legislative mandate. That mom is Karen Leslie. Your 4-year-old listened to a Two Live Crew song at his cousin's house?
No, at my house. I came home from errands, and he asked me what the P word on the woman was that's synonymous with a cat. And I said, where'd you hear that? And he says, from Joey's music. And so I looked at the tape, and it was Two Live Crew.
Did you play it?
Yeah, I would listen farther, and...
First time you'd ever heard it?
Yes.
What'd you think of it?
I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't believe it. And I'm not a prude. I've heard a lot of stuff. And so I took it back to the music store, and I said, how can you sell this to kids? And she says, the manager says, well, there's no law that says we can't. And I said, why not? There should be. She goes, well, there isn't. So we try to card them. We try to make sure they're 18. And so that was fine. I let it drop. And the next day, my other nephew went over and bought it, and he was only 14 because he heard what a riff I threw. And so his mom freaked out and took it back. And then I got in a big fight with the manager, and I didn't know what to do. I thought, what can I do?
So what did you do?
Picketed the store.
To no avail, or?
Yeah, for 3 days, and it got a lot of attention. And then people told me what to do, and it just snowballed. And so I went to this Everett City Council and the Snohomish County Council, and they couldn't believe the words either.
Now, this picked up, what type of time frame are we talking about? When did your young son...
October 90 is when I started it.
So this is a year and a half ago. Okay. And now it wound up in the legislature. So let's, just so that we know what we're talking about here. The legislature, the State House of Representatives and the State Senate has passed a bill that says if music is determined to be erotic, which means if it appears to the prurient interest of minors and has no socially redeeming value, that it will be restricted to only 18 and up.
Well, what it did is it just added sound recordings to the minors pornography law, which already includes magazines, videos, and everything else. That all it did was just add sound recordings. Very simple. Okay, and that determination, a local prosecutor, if he thinks a song... I'm not sure if the prosecutor is involved. All I know is that the prosecutor has to request of the judge to review the song. I'm not sure if you go to a prosecutor and say, I think this is bad, and he goes to a judge, or if he just, you know, I don't know how he gets involved. All I know is that a judge decides. Judge decides whether it's erotic or not. All right, now, it is not often Aberdeen, you think of Timbertown, not necessarily synonymous with a rock group that in a very relatively short period of time has skyrocketed. Several Grammy nominations, sang on the Grammys.
No, we weren't on the Grammys. We don't care about the Grammys.
Okay, you don't care about...
We call
all right. Let me introduce Krist Novoselic, who is the bass player for the group Nirvana. All right. Don't care about the Grammys, but you're still, I would imagine, adapting to the recognition, the attention, the success.
Well, I'm one of the last persons in the country who needs attention in the media, so I'm going to drop my band all together tonight.
All right, just speaking for yourself.
Step out of my element. No, I could speak for the band, but...
What is your reaction to what Karen has said and what the legislature so far has done?
Well, in regarding bands like Two Live Crew and the language they use, I don't find the language offensive, because I think most people use four-letter words fairly often, and like the P word that Leslie was describing is one of the nicer ways to describe of women's genitalia, or one of the more, well, not nice, but like not as vulgar as other words.
That's
not, you know.
Do you feel there should be any restrictions?
No, I don't.
Are you satisfied with how things are done now? Or?
Well, I wanted to continue in saying that I think Two Live Crew and other bands that demean women are sexist, and I'd like to see that done away with, but I place my ideals of freedom higher than the way I feel. It's just like if, it's like take the Ku Klux Klan. I'd like nothing better than to see them just wiped off the planet. And that's my feelings, right? But,
yeah, take a moment, that's okay.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna get shot for this now. But,
but you acknowledge the right if...
I acknowledge the right to express themselves, because that's what freedom is, that somebody can do or say whatever, whenever, however they want.
Would Nirvana's music fit in the category that we have been talking about here, under that erotic...
I don't think so. I don't think so.
So... Now, the governor, this, by the way, this measure is on the governor's desk right now. And there's been no indication from his office whether he's going to sign this or not.
It's 5 steps, and now it's on the governor's desk.
But if he signs it 90 days, it becomes law. That you're comfortable with that? The procedure, the technicalities, it's what you're after?
Yeah. I've been every step through it, and it's been hard. It has not been simple.
What do you think?
And talking to the...
I would like to say I'm supporting Karen very much in this, and I appreciate the steps that she's taken and her stand against this.
What is it that appeals to you about this particular measure?
I think the chance that we have a say in the government, and that we have a say in how our government runs, and that we can speak up like this and have our views taken for validity.
But what about Chris's objections?
He has a valid objection too, and he can voice his opinions. That's what's wonderful about our country.
I don't think it's proper for me to voice my opinion in your household, because that's your household and that's your dominion, and whatever I want in my house, I should have the freedom to have that.
I'd like to ask Karen that when your son comes home saying another bad word from like high school, from another kid or another neighbor, are you going to ban your neighbors? Are you going to ban the kids at school and the language that they do?
No, this is a little bit different. You know how much music has an influence on your life, and you know, and these are little tiny kids. And if you're over 18, you can do whatever you want. There's no difference between music and X-rated videos and X-rated magazines, smoking, alcohol. Kids under 18, they can't even vote. And here we're letting them read this pornography and listen to it over and over and over in their head. It's warping them.
I think the problem here is that, first of all, it's a heated issue, obviously, because we're coming from 2 different camps, most people. And I understand that parents don't want their kids exposed to this kind of thing. The thing that concerns me about this particular issue is that it's so general. When it comes down to one judge, then, like, right now, everyone said, no, we don't think Nirvana fits into that. But what if that particular judge did? And that's where it gets kind of shaky. And the other thing is...
But are you concerned with, I think what she's addressing here is the vagueness, what she perceives as vagueness within...
There is a very big difference between this music and all the other music. There really is, and you guys know that.
But I think what she's saying, Karen, is that's how you perceive this.
Yeah,
You're
right.
not going to be the one making the decision.
No,
what if the judge sees it differently?
Yeah.
You know, what's going to happen if the law is made, you have to be 18 to buy it? What about the 16 and 17-year-olds who are working in those record stores? Are you going to have to be 18 or 21 to work in there? And are you even thinking about any...
I don't know. I don't know how they would...
So you're not worried about repercussions in any other way, or clubs? You know, they'll all have to be 18 instead of all ages. You know, there's a whole bunch of other things involved.
Well, they probably wouldn't play that music if they had under 18, if it came a law.
Chris, let me ask, I mean, do you... Let's flip this for a moment outside of music. Do you think kids under 18 should be allowed to rent X-rated videos or buy Playboy magazines or...
Well, I have some pretty far-reaching ideals on freedom, kind of, you know, I don't believe in gun control, but I hate guns, and I wish they were never invented.
But do your thoughts and your commitment against censorship extend to that,
I believe that there's a real stigma around sex and nudity, and once people shed these, like, inhibitions and these hang-ups about it, and have a more healthier outlook. I personally think sex is overrated, and though I do enjoy sex, and I have sex regularly, I don't feel any fetishes or any unhealthy desires that I consider unhealthy. So
sounds to me like you haven't really thought this through. One possible scenario is with stickering or with regulation of the sales, you have certain albums which can get looked at by, say, the owner of a mall who will refuse to renew leases if these record stores carry those particular records. So what you have basically is people who hold the leases to these stores controlling what we can buy. Anytime you single something out and call it obscene by your standards, by the judge's standards, what it does is it takes the control out of our hands and puts it into the government's hands. And I want my kids to be able to listen to what they think they want to listen to.
I just want to say, as a parent, I feel that I have a right to be able to say what my child listens to. I object to anybody else telling me that they have a right to legislate it. I think that's wrong.
I'll tell you, when we come back, we'll talk with a young man who's put together a group that, a 17-year-old who says he and the people that have joined this particular group are supportive of what the legislature has done, and they're hoping the governor signs this into law. Stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to Town Meeting. We're talking about the erotic music bill that it's made its way through the legislature, now sits on the governor's desk. I'd like to introduce Jason Small, who started a group called the Youth Action Coalition up in the Bellingham area. The principal objective of the group is to what, Jason?
We want to help to educate high schoolers, mainly college students as well, just about different issues. And we are a political organization. And we cover a variety of issues, all the way from condom distribution to just...
What do you think about this one?
I support the bill. And
Why?
I've lobbied extensively. For a couple of reasons. One, I just want to say right off the top that I do not believe it's censorship, any more than running into a crowded theater and yelling fire is illegal. That's not censorship either. Second of all, I think that we as a community have set standards for minors. We say, Jason, you can't drive until you're 16. That's a standard. We say you can't go in and buy Playboy until you're a certain age. You can't do this or that or vote. You can't even vote until you're 18.
So this
is an extension. This is being consistent. And we have laws. We have laws against rape, violence, murder, incest. Why don't we continue to be consistent and put a ban on some materials that are erotic?
Yeah, I was just... Yeah, I was just wondering, I just have a question on how you can sit here and take away your own rights. Because these are your rights you're taking away right now. And not just ours, because those matter too, but your own. Yes. You're saying, I can't do this, and I want it to be that way.
Actually, just as a point of information, obscenity is not a right protected under the Constitution. The Supreme Court ruled that in 1973. In Miller versus California, and they set down guidelines to prove if music is obscene or not, okay? And I'm not taking away any right, okay? Obscenity is no more protected in the First Amendment than libel or slander, okay?
Chris?
How do you feel about sexism?
Sexism. Define sexism.
Well, I think that a lot of erotic music is sexist, and morally myself, I'm against it. I don't buy it. I don't subscribe to that mentality. but it just goes back to personal choice and freedoms. And it seems like it's always easy to like rule by decree, no more explicit music for minors, instead of maybe educating people and stop people from demeaning women and turning women into sex objects.
Of course, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I believe in sexism.
But what would you? I think what he's getting at, Chris,
you're missing the point.
Or Jason, is would you limit this to just obscenity? Would you extend it? If
the bill is very clear. It defines erotic material very clearly, and you don't see.
Hold on.
I think that I've heard a lot of people say that they are deeming this on what they feel for themselves. Well, if each of us on our own were writing this and listening to it ourselves, then it would be something we would judge on our own. America for too long has hidden behind this clause of my individual freedom in the Constitution. The Constitution was written for all people. It has to go across the board, and obscenity has seeped out. When you look at the history of rock and roll, it's come out from music into harder and more outstretching and escaping all bounds, and it has to be limited because we're polluting a generation of children. We're going to lose them, and people don't believe it, but there is a standard that has been set on time, biblically on time, and we'll stand for what we're doing.
I think it's another case of where we're abdicating our responsibilities and expecting government to take over what parents should be doing in the home. If parents don't believe that their children should be reading or hearing a certain thing, then it's their responsibility to teach that child in that way. But it's certainly not a job of the government.
What about kids that don't have parents? Or bad parents?
But has he taken a point here? I mean, do you see this as usurping parental authority? As a parent, aren't you capable of overseeing what your children...
There's so many kids that don't have good parents, you know? I'm not saying...
I see murder and violence.
Some don't even have parents.
Jason wanted me to explain obscenity or define obscenity. I think like
we
murder...
would have brought our papers in. I don't know the definition.
Well, I have my own definition of obscenity.
Definition.
And I think that...
But see, what is that definition? The Supreme Court has said,
The community sets standards, okay? And, I can have my own definition. Chris can have his definition. But see, my definition is not what's governing the society. The Supreme Court is what's governing, and the legislature. Yeah. Okay?
It begs the issue to talk about whether or not parents have control over their children. There are many things that they do not have control over. You cannot be at every place at every time. And there are studies that show that what comes through in music does harm children. We who raise teenagers, I have 3 kids, but there's 15 years between number 1 and 2, so I have had more experience with rock music than some people would if they were raising kids at the age I did.
Well, the more anti-establishment a rock band can make a kid, I think more power to them.
The rebel was fine.
First of all, I have a comment for you and the Huskies that say it's polluting our generation. I'm 15 years old. I'm a 4.0 student. I do not drink. I do not do drugs. I do not smoke. I'm heavily into music. It is not corrupting our youth. It has not polluting our generation. It just happens to be what we like. And I agree with that guy that it's not the government to tell us what we can listen to. It should be the parents who are saying, in our, it should be the parents. It shouldn't be the government telling
So you don't
kids.
think that music has any influence one way or the other?
Yes, music has influence, but just because you listen to hard rock music doesn't mean you're going to go out and get stoned, and you're going to do this and do that and
right. Let me
do
ask
everything
you a question.
else.
But what about, what the concern is, and then I'll let you get to your question, is the type of language used with,
It's not just music. I go to junior high, I hear this music all the time. People don't listen to my kind of music. They listen to pop, and I guess that's okay by everybody else. But I hear language. My sister, everybody. You hear it everywhere. You hear this language everywhere. It's not just because the music I listen to. You can walk around the streets. You can go anywhere and hear this kind of language. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what kind of music you listen to. You hear it everywhere.
See, first of all, you have to realize that music, as well as a lot of different things in our society, have an influence on the people that listen to it or on the people that see a particular program on TV. For instance, why did we just stop a few minutes ago and have advertisements? What was that for? That's because the people that pay X number of thousands of dollars to advertise on this program know that if Joe Blow, sitting in his living room, sees this ad, it's going to probably have an influence on him. And
but does that mean we let the people who advertise dictate the content of a program?
No, but
I mean, are you going to extend it to that
degree?
degree?
Their advertising.
But I think it's pretty funny, though, that they won't even let me show the words. They won't let me say them. They won't let me show them on TV or radio.
It's a stigma.
Well,
I just
but not
basically
those
want to...
words. These are different. These
I
words
just
are totally
basically want to
different.
say, wake up, America. You know,
Yeah,
your constitutional rights are being taken away by these people. They start, excuse me, they start with censoring music.
It's not censorship.
Where are they going to stop? I mean, they're going to keep going with art. They're going to keep going with photography, drawings, everything. And I mean, these people blame music for the problems of our children. Why don't we look at the root? Why don't we look at society?
Why do you look at violence on television? I could turn on...
Is this a censorship issue to you?
Yeah, it is a censorship issue, because I might want to express myself a certain way, and then I find out that I can't. I will, whether or not
we're not
people
taking
buy
away
my
your
record
right
or
to
not.
express yourself.
You are.
No, I'm saying you have any right to... No, listen. You have the right to get up on...
rights away
Wait
from...
a second. You have the right to do whatever, to record whatever album you want to, okay? But the community has the right to prosecute you if they deem it obscene. It's the same... Now, wait a second. Wait a second. If you... Listen.
Hold on, because you opened up a whole new can of worms here, Jason.
I want to use an example. You have the right to drive through a school zone at 60 miles an hour, but the community has the right to say, that's illegal, and you're going to suffer the consequences. It's the same difference.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
I just wanted to say, this is the biggest crock of crap, and I'm wondering, why aren't you guys out there doing something good to help society, like feeding the homeless or something? You shouldn't be in here telling us about anything else. I mean, this is total crap. You're just starting another war on society. Thanks.
When I was a kid, we used to we had this tool shed we'd go hide behind, and there was these old water-damaged playboys and hustlers, and we used to gawk at them, and we didn't even know what we were looking at. It was just a whole deal that we were doing something nasty. And if there wasn't...
Did you feel, and here's their point, did you feel deprived because you couldn't go into a store and purchase a brand new unwater stain?
I didn't want to buy one. I just had no interest in it whatsoever.
We'll continue. Stay with us. Don't go away. We'll be back.
Meeting. More and more kids are resorting to violence. They're carrying guns to school and increasingly getting involved in rape and murder. On a special town meeting, we hear directly from young people and get their feelings about weapons in schools, gangs, and what needs to be done to end the violence. If you're age 18 or younger, we invite you to be part of our audience by calling 443-4186.
All right, welcome back to Town Meeting. Go ahead.
You say that that you're not censoring art and all that, but you are, because on Jane's Addiction Ritual de la Habitual, they banned the cover and they put just a plain white one. And it's art. It's Perry Farrell's art. And some people find the Nirvana Nevermind cover offensive, but it's not. It's just art.
They're pedophiles. Do you know what censorship? Do you know what censorship is?
What?
By any chance, do you know what censorship
Yes,
is?
I know what censorship is.
No, legally, do you know what censorship is?
Why don't you define
your
censorship?
perspective.
Okay, I will.
Karen, do you see this as a censorship issue?
I will define
Establishment dogma.
Censorship means...
Hold on, Jason. Hold on, Karen.
It's a censorship issue in the fact that we're already censoring them where they can't buy X-rated, they can't go in and watch the movies, they can't rent them, they can't buy Hustler, they can't buy cigarettes and alcohol. Why should we have this any different? It's not art.
We're talking ideals here. We're not talking about questionable Supreme Court decisions in the first place. I mean, we're talking about the ideal of freedom. You have to take the good with the bad. Pornography is awful garbage. I wish it was gone. sexist lyrics, awful, whatever you define as obscene, I think that's garbage too, and I'd love more to see it go. But I put my ideals of freedom higher than the way I feel, because you have to take the good with the bad.
I wanted to ask Luther, however he's unavailable, so I'll ask Nirvana. Why is it, do you believe, that they have to put such garbage in all of their rap music? Why can't they put something, like he said over there, worthwhile? Do something worthwhile?
I wish they would. I really wish they would.
Put something
they're sick,
good. Put a good message in it. Like
He's not defending. He is not defending Two Live Crew.
I was just asking him, since I couldn't ask.
If those guys were to drop dead tomorrow, it wouldn't break my heart one bit.
This is not censorship.
I'd like
anyway.
nothing better for them than to just shut up.
I will again make note of the fact that we are hoping at some point. Go. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can just go on. But you got to take the good with the bad, and that's your responsibility as a parent.
Few that are bad. Very, very few. Very,
what about your song Polly?
Well, Polly's about rape.
Right. And you don't. That's.
Well, it's an anti.
Well, wait a minute now.
It's an anti-rape song.
Now wait a minute, Jason, because there's no profanity.
It's a pro-rape song.
Well, so if you're saying you're saying that you would define this as whether it addresses an issue.
I wanted to give my definition of obscenity, but no one, I didn't.
Okay, go ahead.
Obscenity, by its legal definition, is anything, that appeals to prurient interest of sex.
But no one has determined what prurient interest is.
Well, wait a second. It's also anything that is explicit about a sexual behavior or a perverted sexual behavior. And I think rape is a perverted sexual. You can laugh, but it's true.
Wait a minute, Jason. So you would ban a song that deals with the issue of rape just because it deals
with it, but one that glorifies it. We have laws against rape. Why are we glorifying our music?
Do you seriously think kids won't get a hold of these records if you ban them? I mean, I can get a copy of any of those records from anybody. I mean, I've got 6 months till I'm 18, but I can still get a hold of a Two Live Crew tape. I want to just copy it from some friend or something.
Well, it's
like drugs. They're banned, but you know where to get them.
It'll be less easy to get.
So is alcohol and cigarettes. They're banned too.
I do want to make note of the fact that we are still hoping for Luther Campbell to join us in progress during the course of this program. We'll see what happens here. I just want to say that we're standing by. The satellite's still up.
I just want to say in response to this young lady here, I'm 15, I have a 4.0 grade average, and I don't listen to this music. And I just want to say it may not affect you, but if it affects any person where it creates one murder or one rape, it all should be banned. All of it. If it creates one person, it should be banned. That's it. No more.
Do you feel that
weak? Somebody goes out and kills somebody just for listening to a record, it's their fault for getting too into it. People don't write records and say, oh, I'm going to write this. So people musicians don't write music saying, oh, let's see how many people I can get to commit murder or to commit suicide. They don't sit there and do that.
Stay away from that apple tree, Eve,
it all
because
boils
you'll be
down to our individual morals. My morals and your morals are very different, obviously.
Yes,
okay.
we can tell.
Now, there was a show recently aired on a station around here called Safer Sex. Okay. Before it previewed, a woman called the station and said, I don't want this on TV because it contains the word penis, and I don't want my son to know that word. That's pretty bad. What's he going to say? She's going to bring it down. He's not going to be able to talk about his arm.
What if, let me ask a hypothetical question here. What if a song uses the medically correct terminology for...
well, it would be very easy for them to change a few words here
No, but what I'm saying is, would you consider that worthy of being restricted to an 18-year-old or older?
Ken, the issue here is not my morality versus your morality.
But would you see that as...
See, we're getting off of the point. The issue is community standards. Have you read the bill? Have you read the bill?
Well, wait a minute. Jason, you've already said that the community... Or Karen, let me ask you that question then. Would you find that necessarily restrictive? If they use those terms? If they use penis and breasts and...
That would probably be okay. It's the context that it's icky. That just isn't right.
Number one, we're not laws. We're human beings, and we're all different. Number two, if this law does pass, there won't be any trouble getting the albums, because anyone under 18 that sees me on the street, I will purchase the album for them.
They'll just pass a law that'll throw you in prison or something.
Yeah, I'm just a fellow musician, and, you know, when you're in the studio making an album, you know, you don't sit there and read lyrics and you don't put a four-letter word there, you know. It comes from your heart. you know? And you can't censor what comes from, you know, no, if you're, hey man, if you're making a tune in the studio or something and you're playing, you know, it comes from within. You're not just sitting there.
All right, let's be honest about this. Come here. No, I'm not letting you off.
That's great that you feel that way. It's great that you're sincere.
Acknowledge that there is at least the possibility that some of these songs are written with the express purpose of shocking people.
Yeah, but that's not all music.
No.
You know, that's not all music. And what you're going to do is you're going to take it and you're going to do it to all music.
There's no fine line.
Why don't we have a law against the macho mentality that giggle over women's breasts or bodies?
Chris, do you think there is a deliberate attempt by some groups, in addition to Two Live Crew?
I don't think they're smart enough to be deliberate.
I'll tell you what. On that note, we're going to come back in a moment. We'll meet a guy who promotes heavy metal music, fights censorship, and who has developed his own television program to those ends. Stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Go ahead.
I think that people are missing the point as to why a lot of people get the idea that this is censorship. It's not censorship, the bill itself. What it does is it implies that the industries who put out this stuff should police themselves. And that's the really unfortunate part about it. You're very noble, you think you're doing the right thing, making the world a safe place and all that, but really you're laying the groundwork for something that's got a lot more depth to it than that. And I just think that, you know, maybe you should pay attention and think the bill through, you know, before you suggest it be written, you know, before you support things and go wave a flag. I think
doesn't the record industry already do that in a sense?
It does it too much. It does it too much.
They asked the music industry, why don't they police themselves like the movie industry? And the guy said they just don't. It's never came up that
Explain to me why Carcass doesn't get the same funding that, like, the new Michael Jackson album does. It polices itself. That's just the way that it works. The FCC has you covered as far as what's going to sneak into your house.
You yourself, Karen, we were talking about some of the gray areas that appear to exist here in terms of, you know, the context in which certain things are said. Does that in itself concern you? Are you, you know, a little soft in your position there?
Well, I know that what's going to go before the judge is not any of this stuff. Nirvana, Guns N' Roses are playing, none of that is going to go before...
How are you so sure of that?
Because it does not say the words that we can't even show or talk about. Like that. No, not like that rap. No, not like Two Live Crew, as nasty as they want to be.
All right.
Not like
Jason and Karen, what kind of emotional effect do you think the suppression of the prurient interest of minors will have on the children? And don't you think that kind of suppression will lead to an explosion and more of a violent outbreak of, like, child molestation in the church or stuff like that? You know what I mean? No, I'm not saying that I do.
Is violence included in this? Does the promotion of violence?
That's why Dick King sponsored the bill, because these young boys are listening to this violence against women. You think they're going to grow up to be gentlemen?
But
young men are bred to...
But so far,
in their macho attitudes, young men are just men are bred to just laugh at women or get some kind of titillation at a breast or...
How about, because out of the context of profanity and using the explicitly sexual terms that are sometimes used on the street for things, are you talking the promotion of violence? Ice Cube's album regarding bombing of Korean grocery stores. Would that fall under the category that you would wish to restrict? Jason, you're saying yes.
Well, if it falls, where I draw the line is if it's encouraging a behavior that's illegal, it should be restricted.
See,
all right.
Jerry, you come from consistent with the law.
Answer his question about the impact of taking this away from kids and whether or not this, in fact, fosters an explosive type, you know, at some point I'm going to rebel, right?
Yeah. I don't imagine it will.
Okay.
I really don't. Well, like the young kids in the audience are really freaking out because they aren't going to be able to get this stuff. Just like they can't get alcohol and cigarettes.
Hold on. Mark, let me stand up, guys. Mark Allen here produces a show called Mosh's
Mayhem.
Which is what?
It's a It's a TV show fronted by an anti-censorship group called the UMACS, Underground Music Anti-Censorship Society. We go around to different high schools, middle schools, speak out against people like you, and that don't feel that you can parent your kids well enough that you think the government should.
Now wait a minute. What kind of music then do you play?
Mostly it's metal, punk, grunge, anything in the what's considered to be the underground music scene.
So you would look for something that's specifically, I mean, what we were talking about, that contains the type of profanity and everything else?
Not necessarily. We played In Bloom by Nirvana.
We cater also to the needs of the people here who like to see things that you will not see on other TV shows. If we can get a video that is uncensored, that shows a breast, shows something they will not play anywhere else, we will play that, just for the fact that some people do want to see it.
Why?
It's all right. It's all right.
People like Jason have their establishment perspective from the center, the establishment, and they just stand up and walk in a circle and knock anything over that they don't agree falls in line with their perspective.
So, but Chris,
the community sets the standards. It's not
no limits. You think there should be no restrictive limits on music or anything?
On anything. I'm talking about anything.
Okay.
It seems to me that we're missing one aspect of this whole argument, and that is that all music has a message, whether it's classical music or whether it's the kind of music that these folks are advocating. And it seems to me that all music is either going to...
Hold on, guys. Let's have one conversation at a time.
It seems to me that since all music has a message, that music is either contributing to the betterment of society or the breakdown of society. I don't understand why we can't restrict that which promotes...
Because what you perceive as the breakdown might be perceived by others as the betterment.
Deeper.
But I'm not the standard.
Restricting it. You have to go to the core.
Yeah, I understand that, but I'm not the one that's making the decision of what is so-called betterment or...
Well, you're making the decision not to buy it.
That's correct, and I think
Ignore it.
And I think...
Or write letters to filthy magazines.
All right, I'll tell you what.
Here's the
deal. When we come back, as we have said, this bill, this measure, at this moment, sits on the governor's desk. If he doesn't sign it, the people who do, in fact, support this bill have other plans, and we'll talk about that when we come back. Stay with us.
But Jason, you have the right to say whatever you want to say, but I find you very offensive, an example of brainwashed America. And Karen, for some woman who has spent 2 years of her life devoting to this issue, you are so uninformed. The word erotic is a very, very broad word. Anything erotic is going to be put up for judgment. The Who, You Bet, a 20-year-old album, is on a list. Anything that has any implication at all, you are so uninformed what you are doing. You have no clue.
Are you concerned? Do you have any concerns, Karen, do you have any concerns about how this, down the line, may be interpreted? None whatsoever. What happens if...
There's a big difference between that music and other music.
What happens?
In my opinion, yeah.
What happens if the governor says? What happens if Governor Gardner says, you know, this is too troublesome. I'm not going to sign it, and it's out of
Well,
here.
that's for Dick King and the legislators to decide.
Well,
it could be overridden.
So you have you made plans to override?
Don't know.
or are we not saying?
I just don't know.
I just want to say something about Chris, what he said earlier to somebody over here, that he has a right to say what he wants to say in his house, and you've got a right to say what you want in your house. And also with these guys up here that produce the show, I believe, sure, they got the right to produce the show, but, and I have every right not to watch a show, but when I'm sitting in my car in an intersection or just driving down the street, there's a car next to me, you know, especially with rap music, and they're pounding out this music, there's no way that I can stop from hearing it, and I have a right to not be able to listen.
Let's see, wait a minute. Now, wait a minute.
Don't go outside.
Even
perfect
this
world.
is not going to take care of that.
Right.
But
that's still be over 18 on my right to not have to listen to that.
What about the
You'd pass a law?
You buy generic products?
Like I heard somebody up here say that there are laws against, you know, and over there, noise pollution. But I don't see any enforcement of the noise pollution. I see cars going by my house.
That's another issue.
First of all, this is to Jason and these two that were back here arguing about it earlier. You said, and you keep bringing up influence, how much this music has influence. Everybody is influenced by their own thing. Art, music, anything. Commercials, they're influenced by whatever they want to be influenced by. So are you going to pass this law or bill so that everybody can't be influenced by whatever they're going to be influenced by in the first place?
If they're influenced by it, then it's not good.
You were talking of... Say that again.
Listen, if a song...
No, say that. If they're influenced by it...
If a song glorifies rape or murder and they are influenced in the wrong direction, then it should be illegal.
All I see this doing is making kids go on a black market and making it harder for them to get the music. But if they really want it, they're going to get it. They can give somebody other money. Anybody can get it, and I think it's the parents' right to censor what the kids listen to, not the government.
Yeah, I like what Chris keeps trying to point out about sexism and the other problems. There are deeper issues at work here, not the government. I get sick of hearing people like him cower behind the government when there are deeper issues like why aren't the parents influencing the kids? Why aren't this so-called moral majority influencing the children? Society there's a lot deeper things at work there. The sexism, the abandonment of children by their own parents in our society is sickening, and there are a lot more important things at work here. I'm a musician. I don't mind them putting explicit lyrics on tapes with cussing and stuff like that. I don't have a problem with that because it lets the parents have an informed decision, but I don't like bills that say how a musician can do what they do for their job.
Is this an effect? In any way, do you see this as a Band-Aid approach to the overall social ills that he's talking about?
Well, they're always talking about parents policing. Now, how can we be there all the time? Yeah. I thought 2 kids, 1 15.
Well, it's not a pretty world.
But well, just a moment. But isn't the point of parenting so that you don't have to be there all the time? So that you've instilled values and a sense of everything else, so that when you're not there, you can trust your children.
Yeah, but you can't do it all the time, is the problem.
Don't you think someone that's influenced to murder or rape someone from a song is already a little screwed in the brain anyway? I mean, how stupid do you think the youth of America is?
Okay, and if you had known that song was going to influence him to go out and murder or rape, would you have taken it away from him?
All right.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
I'll tell you what. We'll try to wrap this up when we come back. Don't go away. Give us a minute. We'll be right back.
When's the last time? Jason, first of all, you should do your homework first. The Miller versus California case that you stated earlier was in accordance with this bill. The actual law, there's a clause in that law that says a work cannot be deemed obscene or erotic if it has artistic, literary, political, or scientific value. The actual bill, House Bill 2554, does not have that clause. It has utterly without socially redeeming value, which leaves it really open and vague for interpretation by the court. So this bill...
Would you like to have had it more... Would you like to have fine-tuned it a little bit? Do you think it is too vague?
It's very specific.
Okay.
You only quoted one sentence. You quote the whole thing, you know.
Okay.
Specific, if minors are potential psychomaniacs.
If a minor wants that music, he can ask his parents to go and buy it for him. That's one thing.
See, that gives parents the right.
And if you don't think that the music affects how we are, just look at the way people are dressed, and it's happened. It's happened. No. I'm just as bad. When I was younger, I had long hair, and it was the music.
All right, does...
Hey, music influenced my life a lot.
But now, wait a minute, because, again, the rippling effect of this, because now we're judging people on their appearance.
Right, which is very ethnocentric.
Does that upset you?
Just using one example.
But does that concern you? Does it concern you that people are going to be judged by what they listen to and how they dress and how they appear?
Have been for a long time. It's not just going to start now.
We should just get the government out of the control business.
Perhaps, you know, if
a bill like this passes, we can install television sets in every room in the house, and Big Brother can teach our children. You know, let's bring the responsibility home to society. You know, the government does not raise us; parents raise us.
Government tells you when you can drive.
Okay, back to the influence thing about, you keep saying how music's going to influence you in bad ways and all, you know, all this language and everything. I've seen more good influences from music, and if you thought more about what you're doing with this bill, if this bill were to pass, I think a lot more bad influences are going to happen, and a lot more angry people are going to come out of this.
Jason, Karen, do you think the governor is going to sign this? Are you expecting him to? What do you think? What's your best guess?
I can't get inside the governor's mind. I'm not going to speculate.
I'm not even going to guess.
I voted for Booth Gardner, and he's going to veto the bill, because if he runs for Senate, his ass is grass, as far as I'm concerned. If he signs the bill.
Please join me in thanking Jason and Karen and Chris for their insight into this issue. Appreciate it very much. I want to remind you, next week on Town Meeting, you find yourself spending more time arguing about money and less time making love? Do you get the feeling that the fire has gone out of your romance or your relationship? Well, with about a half of all marriages still ending in divorce in this country with the concern about AIDS and other sexually transmitted diseases, more people are discovering how important it is to keep a relationship alive and thriving. Join us next week to find out whether you and your mate are truly compatible, and if there is such a thing, or secrets to share to make love really indeed mean lifelong. That's next week on Town Meeting. I want to thank you for having watched tonight. Ask that you try to make Town Meeting a regular part of your Sundays. Please take care and have a good week.
Was President Johnson involved in the assassination of John F. Kennedy? On Northwest Afternoon tomorrow, meet a man who says Johnson not only knew about it, he destroyed evidence as well. That's tomorrow at 3. Town meeting guests experience the sweet life at the Marriott Residence Inn on Lake Union in downtown Seattle.